MDEP scares the bejesus out of me, and not because it's Microsoft, but just forcing us all down one path seems to be a bit heavy-handed, and it feels like a bad idea in general.
I don't quite get this forcing of people to go, or organizations to go down a certain path when tomorrow a new platform may come up.
We're already doing handshakes across the board. And if one suite of software provides different solutions and it's still able to handshake?
If Microsoft gets a huge share with this environment platform,
Which they will,
exactly. Are they then going to play nice, or are they then going to force everybody to use their phones that they invented 10 freaking years?
I refuse to play with your straw man, Rebecca.
I sense a trap. Next move? Spring the trap.
MDEP is coming for your displays. The French are getting rid of Zoom, and more broadcast in Pro AV. All that and more next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 757, recorded Friday, February 20th, 2026. One ring to rule AV. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of the biggest news and stories in the AV and the IT world. We have big game technology, geopolitical issues, and International Women's Day events. Let's get into it. Have a bit of breaking news right before coming on today. The U.S. Supreme Court struck down President Donald Trump's expansive global tariff program in a 6-3 decision, saying the Constitution grants Congress, not the president, the authority to impose and adjust tariffs. The courts specifically rejected the use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act as the legal basis for sweeping reciprocal tariffs that Trump had applied to most trading partners, determining that significant economic policy of this kind requires clear congressional authorization under the Constitution's taxing power. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote for the majority that while tariff policy can be debated on its merits, unilateral executive action over such major economic levers exceeds presidential authority. The decision could affect more than $133 billion in duties collected and prompt companies to seek refunds, while leaving open the possibility for alternative tariff measures under different legal authorities. More on this as it develops. European governments and institutions are increasingly moving away from U.S. big tech services as part of a broader push for digital sovereignty. In France, civil servants will stop using services like Zoom and Microsoft Teams by 2027, opting instead for domestic alternatives like Visio. Countries across the continent are similarly adopting free or open source software for public administration work. Officials say the objective is to put an end to the use of non-European solutions to guarantee the security and confidentiality of public electronic communications. This is reflecting concerns about data privacy, strategic autonomy, and reliance on foreign technologies. Critics argue the shift could create challenges in competitiveness and innovation. In the U.S., Guitar Center's integration division, the Audiovisual Design Group, or AVDG, will serve as the official AV integrator for the Tennessee Titans' new Nissan Stadium in Nashville. Under the partnership, Guitar Center is also the official music gear retailer for the team. The deal includes installation and long-term optimization of integrated audio and video solutions throughout the stadium, along with a performance stage designed to elevate live shows and fan engagement. Being selected as the AV integrator is a defining moment, said Curtis Heath, president of Guitar Center Business Solutions. Broadcast engineers and live audio professionals took notice during Super Bowl 60, where Sennheiser's Spectera digital wireless system made its first major broadcast appearance. A prototype Spectera SKM handheld was used during Brandi Carlile's pregame performance of America the Beautiful, showcasing ultra-low latency and high-fidelity audio. The system's wide-band bidirectional design enables simultaneous audio transmission, monitoring, and control within a single RF channel, simplifying complex RF environments typical of major live broadcast. According to one engineer on site, the clarity and stability stood out right away, noting the technology's potential for future broadcast and live event productions. In London, 2 leading industry advocacy groups have announced a joint event in celebration of International Women's Day. Rise AV and Rise Broadcast will host a gathering bringing together women and allies from across AV, broadcast, media, and technology sectors. The event features a keynote from speaker Susie Cox, followed by a panel of experienced professionals sharing career insights and personal journeys. The theme, Give to Gain, underscores mentoring, sponsorship, and community support as drivers of long-term industry progress. Registration is open with attendance expected to draw around 150 participants. And finally, InfoComm 2026 has officially opened registration for this year's Global Pro AV Gathering in Las Vegas, taking place from June 13th through the 19th, with the exhibits, of course, happening June 17th through the 19th at the Las Vegas Convention Center. The event will feature more than 750 exhibitors across conferencing, collaboration, digital signage, broadcast AV, and enterprise technologies. Organizers say the show floor has been redesigned around work and play themes to highlight practical AV solutions in real environments. Expanded education and integrated experience tours will give attendees hands-on insights into emerging technologies, including AI-driven systems and immersive experiences shaping the future of audio-visual integration. Of course, AVNation will be there covering the event. That's your AV news. Stick around for this week's Roundtable, where we will look at MDEP getting into displays and the importance of broadcast in AV. This is AV Week.
Hey listeners, it's your AV sneakerhead, Jennifer Weaver. Listen to AV Career Masterminds, where I chat all things job-related in the audio-visual industry. You can find AV Career Masterminds where you subscribe to podcasts.
All right, welcome back. Now we bring in our fantastic roundtable with us to discuss a couple of stories that we've got. First and foremost, Rebecca Sullins. Welcome, ma'am.
Thanks for having me as always, Tim.
Absolutely, good to see you. A young man that I seemingly got missed in Barcelona, Danny Hayasaka. Welcome, sir.
What's up? Here I am.
Here you are. Yeah, Danny and I spent a week in Barcelona together and did not interact with each other in any way, shape, or form. Got to see him on socials with other people I saw, like our buddy Craig Durr and Chris Netto, and just not together. I don't know. Who knows? And also with us, a young man that I got to do a couple specials with, Joe Drury from our friends over at Sony. Welcome, sir.
Hi, Tim. Thanks.
Absolutely. So a couple things, and these are there are still remnants of ISE coming out. You can go to AVNation's website, avnation.tv/ISE 2026. See all of our coverage. All of our friends in the media have coverage. Danny did a bunch of videos. Our buddy Craig Durr did a bunch of it. You can check all that stuff. So ISE is still front and center in my head. This is from AV Magazine. At ISE 2026, enterprise-focused displays built on Microsoft's device ecosystem platform, also known as MDEP, emerged as a major trend, bringing a quote-unquote unified, secure, and IT manageable foundation to digital signage and shared spaces devices. Before we get into the questions, this is Tim's confession. I guess is the best way to put this. MDEP scares the bejesus out of me, and not because it's Microsoft, not because of anything. You know, our friends up at Redmond, I'm sure, have the best intentions, and I understand the security outline of it. But just forcing us all down one path seems to feel a bit heavy-handed, and it feels like a bad idea in general, like leaning on one security platform, and that feels like what MDEP is. I could be wrong about that. I have been wrong enough times in my life, and I am happy to be wrong again. So, Rebecca, we will start with you. Generic question. How do we feel about MDEP making its way into displays in general?
I am this is a hill that I will die on, or someone will anyway. I have always been a firm believer. I mean, maybe not me, but I've always been a firm believer in hardware and software and whatever should remain as separate as possible for large scale installations, right? Because if I'm choosing a display, but the client already has this software that they're using, whatever, I'm going to choose one that is agnostic, right? That's software, platform, whatever, agnostic. I don't like these ecosystems being built into every single piece of hardware that you buy. And Microsoft is especially scary because, as I sort of talked about a little bit before we got rolling, they're already shoehorned into our life, right? Something like 78% of the entire PC market has a Microsoft platform, an OS. So you're already using their email for work. You're already using so much of their stuff. And if all of a sudden they start integrating this stuff into hardware in the professional space, you're not going to be able to get away from it. It's one of the reasons I hated the iPhone when it first came out. I like keeping my stuff separate so that I can choose the interface that works for me or the client or whatever. I don't like it.
All right, Danny, in the UC space, MDEP is all over UC space. Let's just start with that statement, right? There is you, as Rebecca put out very aptly, you cannot get away from it.
I am in the same boat as Rebecca because we've all been in I've been in this industry 27 years, and the reality is that meeting platforms rise and fall, hardware brands rise and fall. So I don't quite get this forcing of people to go or organizations to go down a certain path when tomorrow a new platform may come up, right? So I was just reading about Visio in France, right? So that's they're kicking out teams and they're putting in Visio, and we meet with a lot of customers and they're being forced to either pick this platform or that platform. I mean, this is why I love Mago so much. This is why I jumped over to Mago after 26 years with another company, is that we're platform and hardware agnostic. Mago doesn't care if you're Teams, Zoom, Google Meet, WebEx. We don't care if you're Logitech, Neat, Hudley, Jabra, or whatever hardware you choose. We're here to help the customer have that better experience. And I think forcing people now into the display world, that's just nuts. It's nuts to go down a single path when things can change. And that's that again, I'm just not a fan. But some customers are. They love it for the security, for the management capability. I get it. I get the reasons for it, but I'm also not a huge fan of it.
They loved Skype too for a long time. And...
yeah, and Blue Jeans. What happened to Blue Jeans?
Right.
Where did that go? Yeah. So I'm just not a fan.
I'm glad you mentioned Skype, Rebecca, because I'm going to bring up something even older. I am old enough to remember the Netscape versus Internet Explorer fight. Okay? And let me just say this. If you were under 30, Netscape was a far superior web browser than Internet Explorer ever wished it could be. Don't care. You can call me the old man on the lawn. Don't care.
To
Much
be totally
superior.
fair, Tim, every browser is better than Internet.
You know what? It's good to be back in the studio. I have missed this. 2 weeks, 3 weeks on the road, I have missed this. Yeah, it was just and maybe it's a bit of memory or whatever. Not just remembering some of the fights that Microsoft has had over the years. But that's what this feels like. Mm-hmm. Joe, you're the display guy here. How do you? I mean, just generically, how do you feel about kind of standardizing on one security platform, whether it's MDEP or anybody else?
Selfishly. I'm a little excited about it from the standpoint that obviously there's something to invest in. So, right, everything that we do in the AV industry, it's viable, it's feasible, it's happening, and there's different new entrants who want to be a part of it. And if you're in this industry, it's exciting to see other people wanting to invest in the industry that you're a part of. But if I could provide something maybe a little contrarian to what everyone's provided so far, and it certainly seems like this is going to be a 1v3. I've heard that it sounds like some people are not interested in having one solution out there, one provider.
Yeah.
Is it possible that maybe there is one provider out there that Microsoft is countering? Is there maybe a large manufacturer who's responsible for the majority of the operating systems in our industry that this would counter against? Or maybe if it's viable, maybe we don't like Outlook and we don't like Teams and we don't like these other things, but we like the integration that it provides. Maybe we don't have to sync an Apple to a Microsoft to an Android. Is that such a bad thing?
Yes.
Well, I'm going back to your first question, though. Hang on, because I don't have an answer for you, dude. Like there's not one overarching operating system that everybody's built.
There is one operating system that holds more market share on this planet, and it's not Microsoft's.
It's Android.
It's Android.
Yeah.
Because 97% of all phones in other countries are Android. We're the only country that prefers iPhone.
But to really quickly to Joe's point, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Joe, you're talking about not just phones, but the operating system that other UC manufacturers, and if you're not doing MDEP, you're doing some version of Android simply because of the security. There's a handful that is absolutely doing Windows.
That's right.
But you're right. I didn't even think about that fact, that part. It is Android. But MDEP is a version of Android.
It is provided by a different manufacturer with different integrations, different flavor, different handshakes. So while if we looked at Microsoft and their solutions, their suite from a very high level, I think it would be very easy to look at this and say, well, here's just another chapter of it. But I think, though, that if we looked at the AV industry or the phone industry or something like that, a little bit more specifically, this is perhaps it's fresh. Perhaps it drives innovation from some of the current providers to do something new and kind of break up our same old.
So I would actually like to counterpoint that just for a hair, because to your point, if we're entering a world of BYOD integration systems, right, which we have been for the last 10 years, then would it not be smarter to build hardware that matched better the software that was already on 97% of the world's devices? So here's my problem. Microsoft does not have a viable phone operating system. Like, they just don't, and nobody's going to get it at this point because everybody hates Microsoft because they're forced to use it at work, right? So to me, this is going to create a bigger problem in that ecosystem because now you're having to have Microsoft and Android play nice. Whereas previously, all I had to do was make sure that the HDMI or whatever, plugged in properly. Having those two platforms come to the table is a bigger problem to me.
It's possible, but I would also argue the fact that if you go into the office, you're not going to have one hardware manufacturer. You're not going to have one software solution. We're already doing handshakes across the board. And if one suite of software provides different solutions and it's still able to handshake,
if Microsoft gets a huge share with this environment platform, which I find redundant in their acronym and annoys the crap out of me, which they will, exactly, are they then going to play nice, or are they then going to force everybody to use their phones that they invented in 10 freaking years?
So I refuse to play with your straw man, Rebecca.
Okay, I'll give you a non-straw man. And yeah, I'm old, I don't care. So one of the biggest lessons from J.R.R. Tolkien and The Lord of the Rings is that we should never have one person that has one master ring that rules the rest of us.
Wow.
I am not calling, Bill Gates Sauron. I'm just saying they're cousins.
I will.
And when you speak with the multitude of customers that are out there, they're not one size fits all, and they all come in different shapes and sizes, and the requirements vary vastly depending on industry, company size, type, and what Microsoft is doing is essentially forcing them. Again, and this is what all the media platforms are doing. You're either going to go down the path of Teams, you're going to go down the path of Zoom, or you're going to go down the path of Google Meet. And they're all being forced, but the difference is with some of these platforms, you're forced to buy specific hardware when hardware that you may have in your space works perfectly fine. There's no need to change it. It works. But because this platform is dictating to that end customer how they should basically run their business, I don't agree with that. I think the customer should have the freedom to choose what hardware they want in their room.
I am 100% with Danny on this one. And everything in our lives is going this way, right? Every piece of software you buy now is subscription based. You don't actually own the software anymore. Even car companies are now requiring you to pay monthly subscriptions to use the hardware that you've already bought, because they don't allow you to get into that hardware that you own and disable the features that require that. And so if Microsoft gets their foot in that door of hardware ownership, I am not usually one for a slippery slope argument here, but that's a real slippery slope.
I have to ask, though, if they were to get so much market share that they would control the industry, like we all know they will, doesn't that mean that they have a product that people want to buy?
No, it means they're going to have a product that has no competitors.
Okay.
It's called a monopoly.
Well, they're going to have to oust all the other people who are already in that space.
Yes, and they have the money and the lobbyists and the connections to do that. I spent 6 days without power in Nashville's ice storm this month. You know why? Because I don't have an option for my power. You know why? Because there's no competitors. That does not make it a good product.
Thankfully, the ecosystem in the AV industry isn't quite as monopolized as the energy grid in Nashville.
You also just said, like we know they will, because we know they will, because this is what happens.
That was a little bit of me being facetious, because you guys already said that they were going to own it.
Okay.
Sorry, Tim. We took this way down.
That's the point. Again, I missed this. I will say this: Microsoft already does own the software side, right? And that is the position of strength with which that they are able to say that you're going to put everything on MDEP. They have not yet said that if it's not MDEP, you're not coming on Zoom. They have not, or on Teams. They haven't said that. We'll see whether or not it gets to that, because you got two major manufacturers. One is Logitech, one is HP Poly, who have spent millions in their own operating system development based on Android, right? And they have neither of them have made references of whether or not they are even going down the MDEP road. So Microsoft will have to do something with them at some point in time if they get to the point where they say it's MDEP or nothing. Now, what that's going to look like and who that's going to impact, that is a question for probably a year from now. It really is, Joe. The whole idea behind even grabbing the story is I do have a fundamental problem with one. If it's not a monopoly, it's at least a market-leading position that is driving other folks to make decisions, and that is my concern more than anything. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about something else. VizRT, they introduced a couple of different things at InfoComm, including some really slick virtual production packages. They've got a campus stadium production bundle that they are using to help high schools and colleges with professional-grade live sports production. This is built around TriCaster. And again, I was around with TriCaster 1.0 and the S-Video connector. That's how old that was. Yeah, it goes back a bit. But the other thing that was interesting is what they're doing, and they're leveraging the TriCaster software to help others enhance their Zoom experience, enhance virtual production, including stuff like AR capabilities inside the Zoom production. Danny, we're going to start with you on this. When we're looking at this, and when it comes to the actual UC experience, why are we seeing a rise of this broadcast technology being brought into UC and being brought into AV? And just so I don't get yelled at, it's not just VizRT. VTech has the same thing. So, Sony has, we were talking about off there, Sony has some really wicked UC stuff that they're bringing to the capabilities, to the AV users based on their broadcast experience. A bunch of other folks are as well. Why are we seeing that?
I think we're like right now we're living it, right?
Okay.
So a lot of good information, messaging, content is actually happening in these spaces, and we need to be able to broadcast that information out. And with the current technologies that exist, maybe not, but with these newer these technologies being brought in, being kind of reduced in size, instead of having an entire building, you can have this technology in the size of a classroom, and you're able to broadcast these amazing meetings or messages and content that's happening every day all over businesses and schools and everywhere. I mean, this good stuff it's like content creation. I mean, I know a little bit about content creation. It's something that's happening every single day. Yeah.
All right, Joe, same question. Is why are we seeing the rise of broadcast inside AV and UC systems?
Well, I mean, have we left the information age and now we're in the misinformation age?
Okay.
Right? Do we now
Yes.
need to, actually share our experiences and, actually tie people into to what we're seeing and what we're hearing? Now that we have the capabilities, we have a global bandwidth to provide, these capabilities. I think we absolutely should, and I think that this is fantastic. I got to do video production when I was in high school, and I try and think now in my role doing in my role doing business management and thinking about. The high schools, the colleges, they don't have the synergies, right, to create these things. They're rolling out displays and cameras and everything else to all these classrooms. So to come in with a complete lineup of products, they're all going to work together. They're going to play nice, and this is what the capability is. This is what the overall budget is. All of those things, it checks off all the boxes. But I am curious, though, what you think of this being a counter to the misinformation age.
It's interesting because when it comes to, I mean, there is plenty of misinformation and has been for years. The problem with having that conversation with me is that I'm an old school media researcher, and that's what my master's is in. So we can have a conversation about like yellow journalism back from the 1880s and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a different conversation for a different program. Rebecca, same question here. What are you seeing? I mean, because Rebecca, of the four of us, Rebecca is the one who actually has her hands designing these things. What are you seeing when it comes to installations, whether that's in corporate education, even certainly in stadiums and large venues?
So for me, like, as we get more disconnected from each other, we're also getting more connected, right? This is the globalization. This is the rise of remote work. This is the rise of remote learning. When I first started in this industry, every class that I went to, every class that I took, I had to get on a plane and go to a hotel room and get in the ballroom and sit in a chair and learn about things, right? Now I can take 30 hours worth of classes online with great production value, right here from my desk, because everybody is getting more used to remote content, right? And that's exactly what it is. It's remote content, it's remote communications, etc. And so for me, as every single venue that I integrate, design, engineer, whatever, has broadcast capabilities now. They just do. Even like for a long time, there was a large social media platform who shall remain nameless, and I did a bunch of their in-house learning facilities that were basically, they were their big meeting spaces, right? Where one guy would get up in front of a big LED wall and give their spiel and whatever. And I saw the transition of those become from in-house teaching facilities to broadcast level, so that they could go out to all their facilities, and one guy in one place could reach every single person in their company. And it's just like Joe said, with the rise of bandwidth capabilities and everybody having high-speed internet in their house, this is only going to become more ubiquitous. So people understanding what it takes to broadcast this content in a way that is easy and feasible and employable for the people on the other end, I say bring it on. When I was in high school, I did theater, so I had to learn how to use a soundboard, right? There was a time when that would have been unheard of. Or back in the 60s, when IBM came out with the first computer, nobody was going to bring one of those into a school and teach you how to use it. But now every kid gets a laptop the first day of kindergarten. So this is just a natural progression of the information age, and by all means, teach it.
Okay, that's a good place to stop. I like that. Thank you all so much. Danny Hayasaka, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you or Mago?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn, Danny Hayasaka, and mago.io.
Mr. Drury, thank you again, sir. Glad to have you. How do people connect with you, or how do they connect with Sony Pro?
Thanks, Tim. You can just find me on LinkedIn, Joe Drury, and you can find all of our great products at pro.sony.
All right, very good. Ms. Owens, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Really quickly, before Rebecca says her piece, InfoComm 2026 registration has opened. You should go register and then go register for any class that Rebecca Sullins is teaching. Now,
There's
how do
a
we
lot
connect
of
with
them.
you? There's a lot of them.
LinkedIn, Rebecca Sullins. I am the only one. It's not a very common last name. Or you can get me at ampthink.com, ampthink.com, and find me there for all of your low voltage integration craziness.
All right. And yeah, go register for Rebecca's classes. Thank you guys so much. My name is Tim Albright. Don't follow me anywhere. Go by the website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others. We talked about ISE a bit. You can find all of our coverage of ISE at avnation.tv/ISE 2026. We also have a brand new EdTech with our buddy Erin Mayer Moran. She comes to us from from Barcelona and ISE 2026. I will say, if you want to follow me and follow things that I write about that have nothing to do with technology, you can find me on LinkedIn. I have no idea how many Tim Albrights there are on LinkedIn, but I'm the big, dumb 50-year-old one. So you can check me out there on LinkedIn. But go by the website, avnation.tv. That is avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is Erin Marmoran of EdTech. The world of higher ed AV is growing rapidly. That's why each month we hear from the best and brightest from colleges and universities all over the U.S. Check out EdTech on avnation.tv or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.